All right, we are on. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to Money Mondays. This is Hangout 3 of 3, and we are just moving through this program here. And so this is our final Hangout today. We're going to wrap things up today, but then you will still have this week to earn your points for your voucher, which would be submitted next Monday. And that will finish out our program. We'll post the final results and numbers for that, and we'll do some more interaction and posting on Facebook as well. And so I wanted to start off by just ways we can blow unnecessary money. And this was taken from an article and studies that they've done, and the most common ways people blow extra money. We've talked about a couple of ways already, but I just want to give you a list just to hopefully bring awareness of where you can find money. There's always ways to find money. And one of Dave Ramsey's first steps to getting out of debt, and just the first baby step that you take to a healthier financial life, is getting that $1,000 emergency fund. And I think when most people hear that, it sounds like a lot or sounds like a challenge, but with a couple key decisions, you guys, you could find it in like a couple days. And I'm going to go through some of these things because I bet there's a money drain in your account that's unnecessary, that if we could stop the drain or plug the drain where money's leaking out, you can easily collect that and be able to take the next steps if you're on step number 1, okay? So one way that wasn't on the list, this is just my own personal thing, is just not staying aware of all of your accounts. You guys, I can't tell you how many times that there's just been a random charge or a subscription I canceled, but they kept charging me, or something that happened that I got double charged for something, or the amount wasn't right. I mean, that stuff happens all the time. And unless you're present and aware, you just don't know. And so just keeping an eye on all the transactions that are happening on credit cards and debit cards can help you catch some of that stuff, so that there's not unnecessary money going out of your account. And so that's why I always do a weekly Money Monday with myself personally, just to keep an eye on and look at all the transactions that have happened that week, just to stay present to anything that may be off. Okay, so that's one way to find extra money or stop blowing unnecessary money. So number 1 way was student loans, you guys. And for some of us, it may just be a day late and a dollar short to change that. Like, it just is what it is, and now it's time to pay it off. But yeah, just something to be mindful for our children and our children's children, to find ways to not be $100,000 in debt when you graduate college with like a liberal arts degree. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But we want to set up our children and children's children for success. And so possibly going to a community school to get all those prereqs out of the way, and then going on to another school. Staying in state is another way to save a lot of money. Looking for scholarships. There are so many ways to get money and get access to scholarships that are pretty simple. Even if you're not a star athlete or a star student, there's still a lot of times your county and your state are offering scholarships for a variety of different reasons. And so have your kids go to an advisor or an academic counselor at their school, so they can find out what they have access to at least, like, if they have to go into debt to go to college, to at least get that number as small as possible. And that's something that's always, I try to put into perspective for people when they're investing in inventory, is commenting on car loans and student loans, that we're so willing to invest money in those things that don't promise a return, that have a high interest rate, and cars especially that depreciate right when you drive them off the lot. We're so quick to do that, and that's just on our American mindset. But then we're slow to invest $2,000 in a mid-size inventory that can make us money that very day, and often is on a 0% interest credit card. Isn't that funny? We're so quick to take out a student loan, so quick to get a new car that depreciates in value, but then slow to invest in a business that can generate an income. And so that might be a conversation or like a little tool in your toolkit to have that conversation with people as they consider inventory, because I think it helps put things in perspective. Okay, so another way to easily blow money is just smartphone apps. You know, a lot of times the ones you sign up for, it's not just the one-time $2.99 or $1.99, it's a monthly subscription. And so you want to make sure and be aware of that you're not unnecessarily trying an app and unknowingly signing up for a monthly subscription to something. Sometimes I just want to get apps just to check them out, and I'm willing to spend the $1.99 to just check them out, see if I like them. But a lot of times those are monthly subscriptions, so just be aware of that. And delete ones that you're not using so you're not spending money on that. Americans spend more than $20 billion on apps each year, and that number is growing. And the games too. I mean, oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Okay, so number 3 is gym memberships. You guys, everybody signs up on January 1st, and by Valentine's Day, they're not using it anymore. So do you have a gym membership that you're not using? And maybe if you're not in the habit of doing that, maybe start with some YouTube videos online that are free, and do your workout at home until you maybe develop that discipline and that habit. And then maybe it's time to invest in the gym membership. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're not using it, then it's time to cancel it. And that, I think, along with memberships, even like magazine subscriptions and different groups that we're a part of that require a subscription. A lot of times we're not even connected and plugged into that. So take a look at subscriptions you can cancel to find some money. Okay, we've talked about this one, just daily coffee trips or any kind of drink. I mean, even water, you guys, even water bottles and pops that you get on the go and fast food that you get on the go. Those are low ticket items, so it's so easy to spend money on them because it's not a big purchase. But those big purchases add up. Remember, it's $4.79 a day equals about $1,700 or $1,800 a year. That if you took that money instead of spending it on coffees and things like that and invested it over the course of your working life, what was it? Oh my goodness, I think we're going to go over it later today because I think it's so significant and puts things in perspective that those little purchases that don't seem like a lot can really add up. And if we can have a season of discipline where we're saying no to some of these frivolous, unnecessary things that we don't even need, that often aren't even good for us, we can find more money. Okay, car payments. The average car payment in America is $483 a month. If you're paying on a car at all, you're paying too much. Dave Ramsey is so big on vehicles and using driving the Dave Ramsey minivan that costs you, less than $10,000, paying cash for it until you're in a position to buy a car for cash. Cars are some of the biggest money suckers that exist. Not only to buy it, and the moment you buy it, it's not worth what you paid for it. The interest you can pay on a loan, the maintenance that it requires. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so humble yourself, get the ugly clunker for a season. It's only a season until you're in a position to pay cash for maybe a nicer car. And there's nothing wrong with having a nicer car, but priority would be paying cash for it. So there may be a season of driving a Dave Ramsey minivan. Okay. We'll go over that later. Car leases too. I mean, that's the most, although sometimes your payment is less, a lot of time over the course of that lease, you'll often end up paying more. Car wash upgrades, one of the top 10 most easy ways to spend unnecessary money. I mean, whatever, forget about the foam wax and the clear coat sealant and the protective coating and the wheel rocker and the rust inhibitor and all those extra like fancy things. Usually it's not, you can't even tell the difference between just a regular car wash and all those upgrades. So just get the basic one. Lottery tickets is another one. It's called poor man's tax, and just a big waste of money. The average American spends $100 a month on lottery tickets. Can you believe that? I'm like blown away. $100 a month on lottery tickets. Whew, man. If you invested that $100 a month into a good retirement plan for 40 years, you could almost retire a millionaire. Okay, isn't that crazy? So if it's not lottery tickets for you, what is it? We all have our one little thing that we like to get. So what is it for you that can generate even an extra $100 a month? Take that, invest it over time. And you will be so glad that you did. Timeshares is another big money waster. And then shipping charges that you can pay when you order online. Okay, you guys, so we're going to move on. We're going to kind of jump all over the place today and move on to the other content that we have. One of the topics I wanted to talk about were the 5 biblical principles of money. And Ron Blue really goes into this in his book, Master Your Money. That's a good book to pick up if you're wanting a biblical perspective and to find out what the Bible says about money and spending and debt. And Ron Blue was actually Dave Ramsey's mentor before Dave Ramsey was Dave Ramsey. And so a lot of what Dave Ramsey teaches, he learned from Ron Blue. And he said there's 5 like real main biblical principles of spending. And one is spend less than what you earn. I know that that's like, duh, but very easy to do, especially because of credit cards. Credit cards gives you the illusion that you can afford it because you can charge it and you can have it right then and there. And so therefore, it can allow us to think we can afford it and that it's within our means. But I think it's very deceptive and very deceitful that just because you can charge it by no means means that you can afford it. And so spending less than you earn is a biblical principle on money. Number 2 is paying off all debt, especially consumer debt, credit card debt. Number 3 is building margin in your life. And so starting to save and invest and taking the more that you don't need to create stability and security for the future. And then ideally positioning yourself to move to that significance level. Do you guys remember the 6 levels of your financial health? 1 is struggling. And then you move up to 2, which is surviving. And then you move to stable. And then you move to secure. And then you move to surplus and significance. And surplus is where you start to have way more than what you need. And your mindset really starts to shift to what do I need? What does my family need? To what do other people need? How can I create a legacy? How can I bless other people? How can I create an organization or a charity or give more to my church or give more to family in need because of the surplus that I have? And so that is a biblical principle to start building margin. The 4th biblical principle is to set short-term and long-term goals. And then the 5th is to give generously and to tithe. And so Dave really models his 7 steps after that. And I thought I would go through the 7 real quick. You guys, I know you watch the videos and I know it's in his book, The Total Money Makeover, but for people who aren't reading the book and really diving into that, I wanted to just do a brief overview and to say a few things about his 7 steps that they're very much meant to go in order. And I think where we get stuck is we're not making financial decisions in the order that they should come in. And whenever we get out of order with that, whether we're trying to get out of debt or just trying to live financially responsible lives, it can mess things up. Now, just because it doesn't mean some of our choices are necessarily wrong or you can't have that. It just may not come in the order that it should have. And there's an order that things should go in to create a lot of health and stability. Okay, so number 1 is the $1,000 emergency fund. I think this is the most common one that people skip and don't do is because they just want to start paying off the debt. But what Dave Ramsey says is that there will always be something, you guys. And have you noticed that? Like, I'm so annoyed by that, but I'm like starting to accept the fact that if it's not one thing, it's another. Something that's unexpected, or something that goes wrong, or something that costs more than it should have, or that you wanted it to, or something comes up with the kids that they need, or some medical bill, or something with the car. Like, it's always something. If it's not one thing, it's another. And every month presents its new something to deal with that you may not have expected. And so that's the reason for the $1,000 emergency fund, is that when the something comes up, not if, but when the something comes up, you're prepared to cover it with your $1,000 emergency fund without getting off track with other things, and not being set so far back that it takes a few months to recover from it. Okay, so you get that $1,000 together, tuck it away into a savings account that you just have quick access to when you need it, not if you need it, but when you need it, when something goes wrong, so that it's not major crisis. Okay, you don't want those things to be crisis. You want to feel the comfort and security that you can cover it and still stay on track with your financial plan. And so you get that fund together, and then you pay off debt using the snowball effect. And he says, start with the smallest one and build to the biggest. And the reason we do this is because we want to tap into the concept of small daily wins. Okay, when you are feeling like you are winning, you will keep going. Success and wins begets more success and wins. So when you create that sense of victory, it is more likely you will stick to the plan, versus if you're having feelings of defeat and like it's too far away and this thing is never going to get paid off, you're less likely to stick to the plan. So if you can say, check, 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 on these 3 maybe little bills or little credit cards or little things that you owe, it's like, oh yes, man, I'm checking things off the list, and then move on to the bigger ones. Okay, it's just working with our human nature and our tendency to want to feel like we're living in victory and feeling like we're on target, and it creates a sense of hope. Okay, so you do this debt snowball, and the next step, even before like really investing, and this one I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, because I'm like, everybody can like at least put away like $5 a month or 50 or 100. And so I would tend to lean more towards like start saving something now, even if it's like $1, just to start something, start investing in something. But he does recommend that you've got the 3 to 6 months of income set aside that you don't touch. Again, that's going to be in a savings account that is generating an interest. So it's growing while it's in there. A good like money market account would be a good option, and just search, high interest rates on money market accounts, so that that money is sitting there and available to you without penalty. Like if you had to take it out, there would be no penalty, but it's sitting in there and growing at least a little bit, so that there's the benefit of having your money work for you. That's where you want to put the 3 to 6 months of income that you don't touch, in some kind of savings account or money market account, so that if, and I don't know, probably when something does happen to job security or income or health, or your husband's health or relationship status, I mean, the list goes on and on of things that can happen in our lives, that we need that cushion to fall back on. And that you need that security to cover you in a season of life that you can't possibly, or your spouse can't work at the same level that you're used to. Okay, so 3 to 6 months of income. So you would get that first, according to Dave Ramsey, and then you start more aggressively investing. And he says, some people say 10% of your income. Dave Ramsey says 15% of your take-home pay into a Roth IRA or some kind of pre-tax retirement plan. And that's the best place to start when you want to start investing. And that's money you put away, and the mindset is you don't touch it. Like, it's gone to you until you're in a different season of life. And so you're putting away, it's not like something, oh, if I want this new thing, or if this comes along, I can spend that. No, it's like deposit and then gone. And I would highly recommend, once you set up that account, that whenever your income hits your checking account, it's pulled out like that day, like almost to where you don't even see it. And that you don't even have to make the choice of like, I'm going to put this money away or I'm going to invest. You don't even want to have to make that choice and decision, because every month something comes up that you're like, ooh, I could probably use that here or here. You just want it like sucked out, like right away. The day your income hits your checking account is the day that that money gets pulled out and invested for your future or for a different season of life. And then once that is established, you start college funding with the 529. And then after that, the next step is to start to aggressively pay off your mortgage, possibly early. There are people who disagree with this and some controversy over this because of the tax benefit we get for mortgage interest. But he has a pretty compelling logic on why we want to eliminate that burden, that spending, that interest that we have paid, and just create more freedom in the month-to-month cash flow. Okay, so aggressively paying off mortgage, or maybe refinancing from 30 to 15 years. So it's a shorter window of time that you're paying on your home. And then once that is done, you start to build wealth and start to give generously. And those are really the order that you take things in. So what step are you on right now? What kind of choices can you make to accelerate the steps so that you're moving faster towards the further steps and towards the surplus and the significance? What habits do you want to create and develop that will help you to get there? Okay. Don't you love his video on the gazelle-like intensity about debt? I mean, it's probably my most favorite Dave Ramsey video ever. And it's actually a sermon that he is giving to a church, and shows this video of a gazelle being chased by a predator. And it's very inspiring to watch the video as the gazelle like just kills it to get out of the way of harm. And he gives that image that we should be the gazelle. If we are in debt or don't have financial security, we need to take it that seriously and have gazelle-like intensity to create more freedom and wealth and abundance. Okay, so if you haven't watched that video, it will bless you. It's in the announcements page of our group. Okay, let's go on to tax organization. Yay, who's excited? Taxes. I'm just going to give you a couple tips on how I keep things organized. I have done this almost from day one in my Mary Kay business, and this is what I teach my consultants to do. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit archaic because I know there's all kinds of apps and digital stuff out there, but mine is still like in this silly little box with a bunch of folders. But it works for me, so I'm going to keep it going. So in your workbook, there is a page about what are tax benefits to us as small business owners. And so you guys take advantage of the lovely tax advantage that we get. I know there are some consultants and directors who do Mary Kay part-time and as a hobby on top of another career because of the tax advantage that it is, that so many things that you pay for in life anyways become a tax benefit. And so you got to keep track of it though, because if you don't keep track of it and don't know your numbers and you're not organized, you miss out on that benefit. And so anytime I have a receipt that is business related, you want to take notes on it. Like, okay, say you have a career survey and you took your prospect out for a coffee. You would want to write that on there, like career survey with Erica Hodges, so that you have that record. And so just get in the habit of doing it. Even if it's obvious what the receipt is, I just try to take notes on all of my receipts so I have that record. And then I have a place that I just dump it, you guys, because I don't really want to mess with it from day to day. I don't want to take the time to do it. So it's right behind where I sit on my desk. I know you can't see it. It's just a drawer with a little plastic bin. I love these plastic bins. I like bought Target. out. These plastic bins are like all over my house because they help me stay organized. And so just a pile of receipts, I just throw them in there, and maybe a couple times a year I'll clean it out and I will put them in their folder that they belong in. And the folders are based on that tax sheet that's in your workbook. I basically, for the most part, have a folder for every category that is a tax benefit to me with my expenses. And so let me show you the box. It's an IKEA box, just a bunch of colored folders, and they're all marked there. And so I'll take the receipts that are in the gray thing and I'll just categorize them and put them in here. It has all, you know, my documents and records. Now, I know there's so many email receipts that we get, and so I have a folder in my email that is just titled receipts. So anytime I'm emailed a receipt, it's going to go in that folder, and I keep it there. I used to print them, but gosh, I don't even go to the trouble of that anymore. I know I'm going to have them in there if I were ever to need them for any reason. So I just sort of let them sit in that folder. And then every year, so for every tax year, I empty out, you know, the colored folders in the IKEA box. I empty them out and then just put them in a manila envelope. And then I have all these clear bins down in a storage room in our basement. And they're in clear bins, so they're, you know, protected, and they're just marked with whatever tax year that they are. And so just everything goes in that box so that if I were to ever need it, I can just pull out 2016 tax year, and it literally has every piece of everything that I would ever need to for a record for whatever reason. I mean, God forbid I'm ever audited. Not because I don't run clean books, but just because of the pain and the hassle and the time that takes. And so, so I have those bins, and then once our tax return is done, I print off a copy of that. That goes in the bin down there. So every tax year has its own bin. And then, you know, after 7 years, I discard them. That's like the most freeing, satisfying feeling in the world, is to be able to like throw away stuff. I love throwing stuff away. Although it's sometimes kind of interesting to go back through like your receipts and things you spent money on. I recently did this when I did taxes for this upcoming year. I was looking back at some that I could discard and just saw things like our tithing statement from like 10 plus years ago. And I saw that statement, and we are now able to give more in a month than we used to be able to give in an entire year. And so I actually kept that one because that was just cool to see, like, wow, we used to give that in a whole year, and now we give more in a month. That was encouraging to see the growth that had happened over the years. And there was a couple more interesting things. I found my IntelliVerse VoiceCom statement. I think we used to spend like $15 a month on that. Now we have Voxer. So that was kind of fun to see that, and a couple of other things. And so you've got your box, and then the other thing, I showed you guys this before. All my transactions that I print off when I do my monthly tracking, they're just transactions and like check stubs and packing slips, Mary Kay packing slips for my Mary Kay orders, credit card statements. All that stuff, I like to keep together. So versus it being filed away, I have all these, and the whole year will go into my clear bin so that I have a record of that stuff. You guys, there's been many times it's come up that even with taxes, like the state of Ohio saying, you know, you owe us money, and I'm saying, no, I don't. And they're saying, yes, you do. And I'm saying, no, I don't. And I can go back and look and have all the records and have all the receipts in an organized way that I can bring up those records. And that saved me a lot, just to have the proof and to be able to find the proof. Because after 5 years goes by, you don't remember. And so you need to have an organized way to have proof of your stuff. Okay, so just a couple of other tips. We can write off the miles on our car. And actually, it's either gas or miles, but I keep track of both. So I'll keep track of all my gas receipts and what I spent, and then keep track of my miles. And the easy way I found to do this is just printing a Google month at a glance calendar that it has all my events that I went to on there. And then all I have to do is write the mileage so I can have the total Mary Kay miles that I drove. And then those month at a glance papers go into my clear sheet, so I know where to find my mileage every year. So it's kind of an easy way to keep track of my Mary Kay miles.
I don't think you do.
Okay.
So, I just do this.
Yes.
For a little bit.
Yes.
And then after I'm done playing in there for a little bit, and kind of some gum.
And I'm done. And when you play quietly in there, yes. Okay, so go ahead and go up right now.
What you do with the video? Are you going?
Okay, Eli, go up.
Okay.
I'll see you soon. That is my 4-year-old who should be napping. Our nanny has been out of town for 2 weeks. So, mileage. And then another tip with inventory. Of course, you want to keep your packing slips and keep track of your inventory. And then on December 31st, you need to know your closing inventory so that you know what your opening year inventory is. So that's another thing to keep track of as far as taxes goes. And then just hire someone. You guys don't try to do it yourself. I used to do my own taxes until I started Mary Kay. That was when I first hired a CPA and have had one ever since. And I swear it has saved me thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. And make sure they do tax planning with you so that they're really looking at your business, your life, your income, your personal expenses, your business expenses, and supporting you and finding ways to save money and finding tax benefits. And you want someone who's effective at doing that. So TurboTax can't really do that. Okay, you need a person who's a professional who's looking at that for you. And then just a little piece of advice: when you start to make a Premier Club and above income, going incorporated and having an S Corp is an incredible tax advantage and helps you to keep more of your money, which is the goal. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to some just basic money concepts. And it feels like we're kind of jumping all over the place, but these are almost just like food for thought and like money perspectives and mindsets to have, that maybe you hear some of them and you've mastered that thought process, and maybe you hear some of them and you know that you haven't. And it's maybe a blind spot or an area to grow in. And so we're just going to jump through some money concepts, and I want you to maybe choose a category that you're like, ooh, this is like, I don't even know what this is. And so this is where I need to grow in. And then there's a book recommendation that I'm going to give for each of the topics, so you know what next step to take so you can grow in that area. Okay. So just basic money concepts. We've touched on some of these, but one of them is just the whole concept of stewardship. And either you control your money or your money controls you. Money is an excellent slave and is good when you tell it what to do. Money will respond and it will do what you tell it to do, yet a horrible master that you would not want to be controlled by it. We want to be in control of telling our money where to go. And stewardship is just using your God-given resources, and not only your money, you guys, this touches on so many other things: your time, your talent, your treasures, your relationships, your energy. All of those things are God-given resources, and money touches a lot of those things. And we want to use our God-given resources for the accomplishment of God-given goals. And mastering your money positions you to be able to do that more effectively, using your God-given resources for the accomplishment of God-given goals. And so how are you stewarding it right now? And what's your next best step that you could take to become more effective? the concept that it's all God's anyways, the video that you watched about they're all God's donuts, is an important mindset to take on about your money. And I think it takes away the fear of money when you're like open handed and like, this is the Lord's anyways. May I just do with it what would honor and please Him? And may I just use what He's given me effectively. I feel like it takes our clenched fists and opens them up and takes our possibly greedy, fearful hearts about money and releases that fear so we can just walk in joy and discernment and partnering with God to again use his God, the God-given resources He's provided us to accomplish God-given goals. And how important it is to raise our children and raise up a generation that has this mindset as well. Millennials. Hey, Eli, is that you? Eli? Oh, it's the cat. Lord have mercy. The children, the cat, you guys can't even stand it. The joys of working from home. So to raise our children, to teach them some of these concepts, and to have money conversations with them and to talk to them about this stuff, and that your financial life would not be a secret to them, but that as you learn and grow, they can learn and grow with you. And at a young age, young age, they can learn some of these things. And it's so going to set them up for success and prepare them to be effective as they start making their own money choices. So we talked about the jars that we do with our kids. They've got a savings jar and a tithing jar, and then they have their little money piggy banks that they can use for spending money. So that's one easy way to teach them that concept. Also, just praying before your meals and thanking God for everything that He's given you can teach them that it's all God's anyways, and everything that we see and have is a gift from Him. We sort of have a thing in our house where we don't ever complain about our food. That's just like my thing, a little pet peeve I have, like zero tolerance for complaining about food because it's just a direct gift of God's provision. And so God has entrusted you with all the resources you possess, but do not own. You possess them. He's given them to you, but you don't own. And we are accountable for managing and using God's resources entrusted to us. So here's a good exercise to grow in your awareness of this, is to actually make a list of everything that you have, that you possess, or anything that you use on a daily basis, and anything that you can say, yeah, that's mine, or that's mine, or that's mine, or that's mine. And just make a list. And look at that list of things you possess and really position your heart to see how abundantly God has provided for you. And I think this can help us grow in our gratitude to see the long list, because let's be clear, we all have a really long list of things that we have, things that we can say are mine, things we get to use every day, things we get to enjoy every day. The list is long. And to see the long list creates gratitude. And then also to see the long list and know that it's the Lord's, position your heart to almost like give it back to Him and identify things that you possess and recognize God as the provider, and position your heart to shift it from clenching it and having your fists around it to really opening it up and asking God, how can I use this most effectively? How can I steward what you've been given me most effectively? When you understand that you own nothing at all and that everything is His, we are more prepared to be effective stewards. Okay, so let's move on to another topic, and that's your emotional connection with money. The first time I really thought of this was reading Susie Orman's book, The 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. She spends a decent amount of time talking about our emotional connection to money that often was developed when we were children. where something happened or money was treated in a certain way in our homes that we took on thoughts about money, and some were based in truth and abundance, and some could possibly be based in fear and scarcity. And so it's important to be aware of these. And so what are some of your first memories about money? And what were things you noticed that your parents or whoever you grew up with, how did they treat money? Here are some examples of an emotional connection. Maybe you had a fight with your mom, and then to make up for it, she took you shopping to make up for it, and spent money or bought something for you. And so there may be a connection of spending money for comfort, or spending money to make something right in a relationship, or spending money to mend an issue or a problem. So that may be a connection you learned growing up. Or maybe, maybe you moved a lot because a parent got a promotion, and every time that promotion happened, it was an opportunity to make more money, but created pain and loss and feelings of fear, because you had to move away from what was familiar to something that was unfamiliar. And so, that can create just a sense of wanting to avoid money, or not wanting to deal with money because of the maybe fear and loss it created as a child when there was opportunities to make more. Okay, so we all have some kind of emotional connection that often, if it's not addressed, or if there's not a high level of awareness, can cause mismanagement of money. And also, our financial lives are very private. Nobody goes to a dinner party and starts talking about the amount of debt they have. Instead, we often put on a front with our things that we own, things that we purchase, social media posts. We want to create an image of success and affluence often, even if that's not the reality. And if your money life is not something you're proud of, often it's very hidden, and there's a lot of fear, and it's just not something you talk about to people often. And so you want to, and sometimes we feel like we have a secret that we're trying to hide. It can make us feel like dirty or unethical. And so we want to create more transparency in our lives. And so who could you talk to about it? Even if it's your spouse or a mentor, or even going to Financial Peace University at your church, or hiring a CPA where you can have real conversations about your money, or hiring someone, a professional, who can help you to manage your money or plan for the future. If it's a dirty little secret that no one knows, usually that doesn't lead to more abundance and thriving. Usually that just sends us down a deeper hole of what our financial life is that we don't like, okay? And we want to move out of that. And so who could you have an effective conversation with, and what kind of professional can support you? And even if that's starting with a book, maybe you're not in a position to hire someone, but read all the books on the book list so that those can be mentors and guides to you in your financial life. So Susie Orman went into a lot of the emotional connection. And then the other thing that she really hit on was the concepts of focusing on your money is about putting people first. And that's a misconception that I identified as I started to learn more about my financial world, is that I thought it was maybe wrong or greedy or too materialistic to focus on your money and to want it to grow, and even to want money. I thought that there was something innately wrong with that. And so she sort of helped me uncover in her 9 steps to financial freedom that a focus on money, taking care of your money, even desiring to want to create more wealth, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it's not an idol in your heart that's coming before God, there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it is about loving the people who are the closest to you and loving the people that you love the most. To be healthy financially is an incredible gift to your spouse. It's an incredible gift to your children. It's an incredible gift to your church. It's an incredible gift to people in need who you have more than what you need, therefore you can provide for others. Okay, and that only happens when you do focus on your money. And so that was a major mental shift for me, that really helped me. And I think there's a misconception, especially in Christian circles, that a focus on money is greedy or materialistic. And I want to sort of maybe present a different mindset so that we don't stay stuck in that, because I don't think it ultimately serves any of us well. Some people think to ignore money, it's a way to not be materialistic. But again, the more healthy you are financially, the less you stress about money, the less you think about it, and the more resources that you have to give. Here's another concept I thought was really interesting when I learned this, that money is amoral. Okay. It's not in and of itself, it's not good or bad. It's just a thing. It doesn't have morality. It's not really good. It's not really bad. It's just an object. And it's our relationship with it and the place in our heart that we give it. That's when it creates either goodness or evil in our life. It's our heart position towards money and things, not money and things in and of themselves. Here's an emotional connection I discovered as I read actually Susie Orman's book, as I realized that I chose teaching as a career because you could not make a lot of money. I think I had a fear that having a high income or desiring a high income, there was something wrong with that. Now, I couldn't have said those words and I wouldn't have verbalized that in my young adult life, and maybe high school and college is probably where I picked up on that somewhere. I couldn't have said that. And if somebody would have said I thought like that, I probably would have disagreed. But there was somewhere in my mind and heart that I thought it was bad to want to make a lot of money and bad to do that. I don't think my parents taught me that, because they don't think that. So I have really no idea. And actually, I do have an idea of where I picked it up, and we'll get to that in just a second. And so I chose teaching, yes, partly because I love children and education, but I thought there was something noble about choosing a profession where I knew I wasn't going to make a lot of money. And I felt like that was like right. And that I was like a good person for choosing that. Okay, so that's obviously like some misconceptions and an unhealthy emotional connection with money. And so when I started to make a much higher income in Mary Kay, although I loved it and I was money motivated and that was really rewarding to me, there was still a part of me that feared that it was wrong in a way. And it's been my journey of learning about this area of my life that I've been able to overcome that. And I have no qualms about making a lot of money or pursuing that, of course, under the umbrella of the fact that it's all God's anyways. And it all belongs to him, and it's his loving provision. And so then I read the book, Thou Shalt Prosper. This is on our book list. It's kind of a cerebral book that talks about a lot of different topics. But one of them is he sort of starts the book by uncovering the fact that wealth, especially wealth created by a business, is very villainized in America. And that any wealth created by a business owner, a CEO, or somebody who built their own business, that there's something greedy and wrong with that. Okay, so they did a study, and 74% of recent, current Hollywood videos, like modern Hollywood videos, the villain is a wealthy businessman. So just think about that. Majority of mainstream movies that our country is watching is demonizing business and wealth. Interesting. And I would venture to say that may be where I picked up that concept that it'd be more noble and more right to go into a career that's a low income. Okay. Now, I believe, you guys, most people who've created wealth in a business have done it out of a desire to serve others and make a great product or provide a great service. Are there greedy, wealthy people? Sure. Yeah, there are. But there's also greedy, poor people. Okay. So a greedy heart really has nothing to do with the level of income that you make. It's what you believe about money and who it's from and where it comes from and how it's provided and how it's created. That's what creates greed or generosity. So, not your level of income, but the state of your heart. And so, somewhere along the way, I think I picked up on the fact that being a business owner and being a wealthy business owner was wrong or bad. And of course, that is not. Here's another thought I want to share is that ignorance is not bliss. We really want to be super in touch with our financial world. And if you are in some way avoiding it, not wanting to look at it, wanting maybe just your husband to take care of it and not really know the details, we've got to like wake up. We got to wake up because that's not going to serve anyone, especially the people that you love the most. And we have to be present to our money situation because it's not going to go away. Money problems don't fix themselves. You are not going to just wander out of debt. You can easily wander in, but you ain't going to wander out. You're going to have to be a gazelle, like a crazy gazelle running at full speed to get out of debt. And so we started this program with the money, the wake up call, that test you took. There was just the yes and no answers. And then the couple of questions that started with how in touch are you with your money, just to help you wake up and help you become aware of areas that you've maybe fallen asleep to your financial life or have avoided it in some way. And I want to say again, I know some of you, your spouses or somebody else in your life really manages your money, and that's fine. You don't have to necessarily take the primary role, but you need to be involved at some significant level that you're aware of what's happening. But I'm guessing if you're a part of this program, you in some way have a leadership role or at least a partnership with whoever else in your life is making decisions about your money. Okay, let's move on to a little bit more about consumer spending and debt. We've touched on this a little bit, but I feel like there's more to say on this because this is just important to remember on a daily basis because we have opportunities to spend money every day. There's stuff coming at us everywhere we look. You go into Target and everything looks so good. Like they just make it look so good. Like you look down the aisles, you're like, it's all beautiful. But then when you take that one thing out of the beautiful display or, things look good in multiples. Have you noticed that? Like, so when there's like a whole rack of it or a whole wall of it or a group of it, it makes it look better than it is. And so it's always sort of disappointing because you're just going to take one of those things and then take it home. And then all of a sudden, when you take it off the beautiful shelf in the shiny, bright store, when it's all around all these other pretty things, you take it home, you're like, oh, this is not as pretty as it was in the store. And so we're constantly being exposed to spending opportunities. And the clothes too, you guys. Oh my gosh, they look so good on the model. Like her outfit is perfect, and she's in like some like European road or sunny beach, and it looks so beautiful. And then you get the package from China, like all balled up in like a plastic bag with a package that has like traveled over the entire world to get to, and you're like, oh, this is really not as exciting as it looked on that beautiful Brazilian model on like the beach. Okay. And so we have to be aware of those things. And remember that it is all pre-trash anyways. One day soon, you will want to throw it away. One day soon, you'll be annoyed that it's cluttering your closet. One day soon, it will be given to Goodwill. One day soon, it will be broken. First time you wash it, doesn't look nearly as good as it looked when you bought it. Okay? So everything is pre-trash. And for every dollar you spend consumptively, okay, so on just consumer stuff that often you don't need. Is it all bad? No. Do you need some of it? Sure. Is it okay to buy it? Yes. But more with a higher level of discernment and a higher level of stewardship. that we need to be making these choices with. Okay, because every dollar spent consumptively is a dollar that's gone forever. Like it will never be returned to you unless you're like super good at selling stuff on eBay or like consignment shops, but you won't get full price back. Okay, so it's that dollar is gone and gone forever. Whereas when we take that dollar and invest it and save it and allow our money to work for us, not against us, it not only saves that dollar, but it's creating more dollars in the future. Okay. Let us like receive that in our minds and receive that in our hearts and let it be truth and let it help us in moments of temptation when we are faced with choices to make about how we're spending our money. So the years following World War II have been like just there's been incredible growth and affluence in our nation. And there have been no other people who have lived on this planet, you guys, who've possessed the material resources that we do and that we have access to. You don't even have to be wealthy. You can, in fact, even be poor and still live more abundantly and more affluently than most of the people on this planet who have gone before us. So we are a truly materially blessed people. And yet there are some significant cracks in the way we think about money in our economic structure that I think can lead to another generation not experiencing the abundance and affluence we do. I don't think that that's sustainable to live like that forever. Even in the Christian communities, I think there are even Christian leaders who would lead you to believe that you're owed a certain type of lifestyle, or that you can spend beyond what you make or can afford. Okay, our national debt is a number I can't even say. I don't even know how to say this number, and it's probably bigger than when I looked it up. But it's almost like $60,000 for every man, woman, and child in our country. If every man, woman, and child in America could give the government $60,000, the debt would be paid off on top of the taxes we already pay. And so we just live, guys, in a consumer culture that overspending is completely acceptable. In fact, it's weird not to. And some would even argue that it's necessary. And so God loved Dave Ramsey and his tough love message that he stands so loudly pushing back against the reality that we live in. So I'm gonna say it again, because I think this is something easy we can all do, and just like an easy thing we can implement is to start saying no to like just some small little purchase, whatever that is. A coffee is an easy example because it's just probably very common that we'd all stop and get a coffee. So that's an easy one. Clothing is easy. Eating out, fast food, those kind of small spending habits that we have. Which one can you eliminate? And could you even set it up every day that $5 is taken out of your account? You can set that up at your checking account where easily just like $5 is pulled out and set aside into a savings account. And then you let that kind of grow. And then you take that larger chunk of money and open up your Roth IRA, or open up your money market account, or open up your 529 for college funding. That could even be a simple, easy way to start your journey towards more wealth. Because if you take $4.79 per day, that equals $1,750 for the year. And then if you invest that every year over your working life, okay, so we're playing the long game here. This is not a get rich quick scheme, my friends. This is like invest and make good choices over long term. You get rich slowly, not quickly. But if you invest out of your working life, and it on average earns 10% compounded annually, such as a Roth IRA, that would actually equal, when you move on to a different phase of life and into retirement or a different season, almost $1 million. It's $850,000 that would end up creating. Okay. So you spent it on the coffee, it's gone forever. You take it, say no to the coffee and invest it, it's creating you almost $1 million over the course of your life, of course. Okay. Again, average car payment is $483 a month. Take that amount per month, invest that in a Roth IRA for your working life. You guys, you would end up having 5.6 million in that account because of the wonder, the eighth wonder of the world called compounding interest. Okay, just like take that in for a minute. Okay, because you better really like that stupid car that you're spending all that money on. Get a clunker for a few years. Have no car debt. Move that money somewhere else. And you position yourself to be a millionaire at the point when it's time to retire. Biblical advice about debt. Proverbs 6:5. Give no sleep to your eyelids. Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter. And that's where the whole video that Dave Ramsey preaches on and talks about, it's from Proverbs 6:5 and the Lord's advice on debt and how we should treat it. Give no sleep to your eyelids. Okay. Like if you're poor and in debt, don't go to sleep. Get another job. You should be working around the clock to deliver yourself from that kind of burden. I hope you guys can't hear that. You guys hear all the little kids on my front porch right now? It is the beauty of living in the community that we do. There are kids around me constantly. Oh, okay. So there are two extremes we want to avoid, you guys. One of them that we spent the most time on is just overspending and a complete lack of control when it comes to your finances. But then there is the other extreme to that we haven't spent as much time on, you guys. But the other extreme to that is it's just an unwillingness to spend anything and like hoarding things or an unwillingness to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Hey, Eli, you cannot play right now.
Why?
Because mommy, you need to wait till mommy's done. Okay, so go ahead and go out and tell Parker that.
Why can they not just be quiet with me? I was playing a game.
No, with your friends outside right now.
Okay.
You're gonna have to wait for that, okay? And I don't think that's right either. We are meant to enjoy our life. We are meant to enjoy the fruits of our labor. But remember, in a certain order. Okay, things happen in a certain order. And debt being paid off and creating stability and security for your future happens first. And then that can lead to more enjoyment. And it's funny, you actually enjoy it even more when it's done in that order. And when you allow yourself to like really work for something, if there's a big thing you want to spend money on, instead of just charging it, like make yourself do something for it. Like make yourself gold medal before you spend money on that. Make yourself earn a certain commission check. Make yourself do 100 faces. Like create some sort of challenge that you're positioning yourself to work for it. I think we're lacking that concept today because we have access to credit cards and we can charge things. It's like we never create the opportunity that like, I need to actually work for this before I can purchase it. It's not just purchase it and then like add it to my monthly payment and pay it off over time and pay interest on it. No, it's like work to create the cash and then you get to have it. The level of satisfaction that creates and the level of confidence that builds in you, that you put that into practice versus just sort of consumptively and what's the word? Compulsively spending whenever you want. Let's switch that around and take the necessary order that we should be taking when it comes to our financial decisions. Okay, guys, let's move on to a couple of other topics here. I want to talk about seminar. and making that investment. And then I want to review our little challenge that we're doing here. And then we're going to close with a poem that Mary Kay Ash used to read to new consultants. Okay, so seminar. Registration has opened up, and usually the number one reason people either can't go or choose not to go is because of the cost of it. It's about $800 to $1,000 for a consultant to go. And that's if you room with other people. So it could even be more expensive if you take your husband or decide to room by yourself or just with one other person. But on average, you're looking at about $1,000, and that's what we're going to crunch numbers for. But they say, and they've done studies on this, that there are the average person makes 7 really key decisions that forever changes the trajectory of your life. And when I heard that, I'm like, 7? Like, surely there's got to be more than that, just because of how many decisions we're making every single day. I mean, it's just constant decision after decision that we make. And so I'm like, surely there's more than 7. But as I got to think about it, I'm like, yeah, that's probably right. And so seminar, my friends, is in my top 7 of most important decisions in my life. And I would actually rank it as number 3 behind my choice to follow Jesus and then my choice to marry my husband. Those were number 1, and number 2, the choice to not only just start Mary Kay. Okay, that decision is up there too, but even more significantly than my $100 starter kit decision, you guys, was going to seminar for the first time as a new consultant. And that was maybe 4 or 5 months after I ordered my starter kit. And it was really that decision that changed the trajectory of my business. And looking back, had I not made that decision, I don't think I'd be who I am or where I am today in Mary Kay. I think I would have been in Mary Kay for life because it was just a no-brainer and it was an easy product to sell. That was a no-brainer. But pursuing it at the level I did after I went to seminar, that is what changed my life. And that's what really impacted me. Okay, you guys need to go upstairs. No. Okay, so we're going to practice crunching numbers because I want to hopefully give you some hope that you can make this happen. And for consultants and directors out there who are already going, you've already figured this out, I want you to help somebody else figure this out on your team, or a girlfriend you want to have come, who this would create the opportunity for her to be able to go to seminar. Okay? And so, so here we go. And again, this is just practice crunching your numbers. Maybe it's not seminar that you're trying to figure out money for. Maybe it's a new such and such, or pay for this, or pay this credit card off. Like maybe you just want to generate $1,000 for another reason. You can kind of go through this and use it as an example of crunching numbers. Because remember, I think a lot of people fail not because it's hard to be successful. They just don't have a freaking plan. And we just need a plan in place so that we know the steps we can take, and we know like what we're working towards, and we can see progress, and we can know the activity that it takes. Like we need a plan to be able to do that. And it's not like the plan is even hard. Like when you hear this plan, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I could probably do that. So it's not like the plan is hard. It's just we don't have one. So we're going to have one now. And so whether it's for seminar, for you or for someone else, or whether it's just generating income for something else, let's figure out how to do that. So we're going to break it down. And that's what I always do for seminar. And if you're saving for something else, just break it down over time and have a separate account that you're shoving that money into and saving it in. And so we're going to do $250 in May to get your plane ticket, $250 in June to register. I know it's not $250, but this is just how we're going to break it down. July, you're going to need $250 just for spending money and food while you're there. And then in August, you're going to need $250 for your hotel. And again, all of these are average numbers. Some are a little high, some are low, but we're just going to go with that average and end with 1,000, which is about what you're going to need for seminar. And in fact, I think that would give you more than enough. And so $250 a month in May, June, July, and August for the next 4 months is what you need. You need $250 left over. So remember, when you do the 60-40 split, that $250 has to be that 40% that's left after you've put your money in all the other places that it needs to go. So it has to at least be the 40% left over, if not more, if there's other things you want to do with your money. And there are other things in this example that we're going to do with our money. So we're not just going to use it on seminar. We're going to benefit in other places as well. And so we're going to make the 250 not 40%. We're going to make that 20%. Okay, so that there's another 250 to still do something with. There's the 250 you need to spend on seminar, and then there's or to save or whatever you want, and then there's another 250 that's doing other things for us in our business. And in fact, we're going to put 10% to paying down your investment, because let's say you still have an inventory investment to pay down. We're going to put 10% there, and we're going to put 10% to building your inventory. I'm going to pretend you don't have a full store. And if you have your inventory paid off and you have a full inventory, you just have an extra to do something else with that you could possibly want to do. Okay, so that means if we want to do all those things, and those are our numbers that we're working with, we would actually need to sell 1,250 retail per month in May, June, July, and August to be able to do these things. Okay, 1,250. Now let's just do your reorder. That's the easiest thing to kind of figure out. It's half of 1,250, which is $625 you would reorder. So you'd be a You Hold the Key achiever. You'd be on track to be a star. Stars earn cars. So it's just a healthy level to work your business at. Okay, so half your reorder is 625, and then 10% for expenses. That's 125. So that goes into your account for expenses. And then you've got 10% to pay. Okay, so then that leaves that 40% left. And we're going to take that 40% and break it down into 20% towards seminar, 10 to paying down your investment, 10 to building your inventory. Okay, so 10 to pay down your investment. That means 125 gets to be put on your Mary Kay loan or credit card, or paying back a savings account, or paying back somebody you borrowed from. Okay, 125, boom. Another 10%, which is another 125, is reinvested to build your inventory. You want to build your inventory, but you don't have the option to just do it all at once. So you're going to do it slowly over time. So you're going to have an extra 25 to add to your wholesale order so that your inventory is growing. So instead of your wholesale reorder being 625, it's now going to be 750. And that puts you on track for your area quota sales too, by the way. And then you've got that other 20%, which is 250 left, that's going towards seminar or whatever else you want it to go towards. Okay, so you've got to reorder your 50%. You've got to put money aside for your expenses to cover your business expenses. You got to pay down part of your investment in your Mary Kay business with your business profits. You got to build your inventory so that that's growing, and you got to go to seminar paid for with Mary Kay cash, or use that for whatever else you need to if seminar's not on the table, which it better be on the table. Okay, you got to do all those things, you guys, with that money selling $1,250. So let's figure out how we're going to do that. And so that's selling $313 a week for a month. Okay, so a little over 300 retail, which for most people out there listening to this, that would be like 1 to 2 parties a week, or maybe a party and a facial, or maybe a handful of facials, or maybe a party and guests to meeting, or maybe a party and reorders. But a pretty hobby level amount of activity. I mean, 10 hours a week is the number I would put to it if you wanted to generate that as a newer-ish consultant who doesn't have an established customer base. Okay, so a part-time gig, real part-time, and you're getting to do all of these things with your business. And so we do not have some of these things that I just mentioned. Okay, the reorder, the expenses covered, the investment being paid down, the inventory being built, the seminar being paid for in cash, or whatever else you're spending that money on. We don't have some of these things, not because they're hard to have. We have just not planned to have them. Okay, directors, I asked you this in last week's Hangout. Imagine if your whole unit had a mapped out plan for her money. Imagine what that would do for your unit. If every consultant working her business had a very specific plan she was working towards so she could get a reward that would bless her business and her family. You guys, the motivation, the focus, the winning that would create, the stories, the success stories that would create, the growth and stability, the security for people's families. I mean, it would change everything. We need a plan. Directors, you need a plan, and directors, we need to lead our consultants to have a plan so that all these things that we can have, we can actually get our hands on because we're taking logical steps in that direction. Okay. And so, so that is your plan for seminar. You guys, it's still early in May. I think you could create even more of a surplus between now and then to be able to go. So don't tell me you don't have enough money. Do you have $1,000 right now that you can spend it on? Maybe not. Can you generate $1,000 with some intentional work in your business? Absolutely. Okay. And it could possibly be one of your top 7 choices that you've ever made. And could very well change the trajectory of your life and your business to do what it takes to earn this and to pay for it. Okay. So we're still doing our 6-week challenge. You guys, I sort of gave you April and May, or the choice to do it in May and June, depending on whether you wanted all the information first or whether you wanted to just get started on it. And so that is in motion. I actually posted something this morning, just kind of asking how it's going to make sure you guys are reminded and on it. And the whole goal and purpose of this is to learn and grow, and also to create new habits. Okay, that's the whole goal and purpose. And so I hope you're on it with those habits of weekly tracking and monthly tracking, of using the 60-40 split, whether it's the spreadsheet that I provided. By the way, someone, I'm forgetting who now, but someone updated it and adjusted some formulas, which you can do. And it is editable. The ones that I put on the announcements, anybody could take those and adjust it to the way that you need it to work. And everyone needs it to work a little bit differently. So feel free to do that to make it work for you. Okay, so you're tracking weekly, monthly. You're doing the 60-40 split. You are reading your book, and you are having a financial meeting with your significant other or whoever's most involved in your money life. And then you are committed to not spending in a certain category. Maybe it's the coffee, and maybe you're taking that $5 out of your account and investing it. Just an idea. Okay, so I am going to finish, you guys, with a poem that Mary Kay Ash not only read to new consultants. She was known to read this at new consultant training. She not only read this and stood for it, she lived by this. And this is the mindset that she took on as she built her business. And so you may have heard this before. Let me read it to you now. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have paid. Okay, and I love how that ends. Any wage I would have asked of life, life would have paid. And so I believe that you taking some of these mindset shifts and concepts we've talked about, and taking action and creating habits that we've talked about, you guys, it is in a sense asking life of a certain wage. It's taking on the thought process and the activity that is positioning yourself to set a different wage or a higher wage for yourself. Okay? When you start to think and have some of these thought processes ingrained in your mind and in your heart, when you start taking steps in the right direction and doing Dave Ramsey's steps and moving through the 6 levels of financial security, you guys, you are in a sense setting your wage, because whatever wage you set, life's going to give it to you if you're willing to work for it. But let's first take the steps to just define the wage and define what you want to create, and then go about to doing it. And there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing you can't earn or accomplish when you believe and live some of these concepts. So blessings upon you, blessings and abundance, you guys, and gratitude May we have hearts of gratitude, and may we work hard to create significance and legacy for the people that we love the most. Okay, I love you guys. I'll see you in the Facebook group.